Hi everyone, welcome to another session as a part of Winter of Code Social. Today's session is going to be about Jeremy Alston. He is the co-founder of Opulentia AI, which is a really cool AI tool for AI agent, which you can use to work on your websites to create tools. And Jeremy will be sharing more about it. And this session is going to be focused about how you can create or make websites, and also about the deep resources and tools available online. And I won't talk much about it. I'll let the speaker take the lead. Jeremy, are you ready?
Yeah, for sure. Um, and Brown looks good on you, Arushi.
Thank you.
Do you have can you let me share the screen?
Sure.
It would be for my computer profile as well too.
Yeah, I'll just do
Okay,
both.
perfect. Yeah, because there's two of me in here.
Yep. Can you try now?
Yeah, here we go. Perfect. And let me know if it stops sharing because
Mhm.
I have that problem kind of frequently. And can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
I just put on the video. Okay. I just got into Tampa, Florida, and Miami and Sarasota. So I'm gonna hop off a video because I'm pretty discombobulated right now, but I wanted to pop in and say hi. And shout out to Morgan on the call as well. He's also a co-founder of Opulentia. And so the first thing I want to do is just show a preview of the application. It's privately available to all of you. It's still very much in an iterative kind of beta stage, but that doesn't mean it's not incredibly powerful. And I'm going to introduce myself and the company in a second, but just as an intro, it's actually modeled after one of my favorite agent products and companies, which is Devon AI by Cognition. Now, a lot of people remember Devon for making the false claims of saying that they could make completely autonomous engineers maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. This brought them a lot of bad, negative publicity, and it was certainly ahead of its time. But I think I invite people to give these tools another try. We've made such incredible progress throughout this industry. We've had so many gains and capabilities. And now Cognition AI, after acquiring Windsurf and developing Devon, has, I think, one of the most refined approaches on what a future of autonomous engineering could look like. And their tools are highly performant. While Devon is a bit expensive, I also use Windsurf in addition to our product suite. And I highly recommend giving their tools a try and giving me feedback because we won't know we're better until you try them all. So I encourage everybody to use all the tools that are out right now. It can really make a tremendous, significant difference within your own life. And you can see a bit of what we've done here. So, as an intro to me, I am the founder of Opulentia. I spent multiple years, most of my career, as the Midwest Ventures lead at Accenture, also doing applied AI. So I was working with over 100 different Series A, Series B startups across digital health, cloud and hyperscalers, supply chain, talent, um, AI specificities, robotics, Industry X, etc., and working with Fortune 500 enterprise executives to do large multi-year, multi-million dollar deal architecture and solution architecture. Um, Eventually, after working for this company for a good part of my life, and at Accenture, they like to take the majority of your life. Um, I was doing things like ghostwriting for the World Economic Forum on our perspective of generative AI, building new partnerships with Microsoft Ventures, and pushing the frontier of AI forward there of applied AI as it pertains to AI and venture capital and like deal sourcing and company analysis, doing different things with like T-Mobile, with Best Buy, with McDonald's, everything from highly intelligent agents for specific actionable things, all the ways to like building holograms, 3D holograms using artificial intelligence and personas for like the PGA Golf Tour. So I have a lot of experience. Normally, I was at the head of these different things, which gave me the ability to go and build my own company about a year and a half, 2 years ago. We're currently backed by NVIDIA AWS, and Daytona. And our goal and mission continues to be we just want to make it the easiest possible to be able to do things that you've never been able to do before. And you may have the capability to do these things. From what I understand, everybody here is at least, um, starting their engineering journey or a part of it, but that means you have the skill sets that are so valuable and will continue to be throughout the entirety of the future. I do not personally see these tools as something that's intended to replace humans, much more to extend our capability and to give us the ability to do things we couldn't have done before or at a much faster pace, which I consider largely in the same bucket. So, our product suite is pretty comprehensive. Right now, our core product that Morgan and I are working diligently on, it will be released soon. Maybe it could be a Christmas thing, maybe a top of the month, maybe a top of the year. But we have a super agent, a general super agent platform. This is something with our most refined skill sets as it pertains to different research techniques, applied AI techniques, making this highly valuable across every single area of work and condensing all of these, universe of tools into a singular pane of glass. So imagine something where it'd be very easy for you to do research on a new, package or framework like Vercel's AI SDK, create a report about it, make a PowerPoint about it, and then actually instill this within code, all within one flow. This was released a couple months ago in its first early form, and we're working on the second one now. We're also super proud of Opulent Code as we're producing with this group, which is super helpful. Um, it's like a frontier coding agent, as I said, analogous to Devin and Cognition. We'll go into more of that as well too. We also have Vibe, which is akin to a product like Lovable. So instead of like rigid autonomous engineering and really hard stuff, it's more so, how can we make an incredible experience? How can we make it really enjoyable for a non-technical person to go in and build different applications, full stack with back end and all, and deployable on our unique architecture. We also have our chat agent. People mistake this Morgan for a basic chatbot, but it is very not. It has, full functionality as it pertains to being able to code, write documents, do dynamic iterative research, whether that's a simple basic question and answer or highly deep research. And then we have our productivity AI tool. So you can imagine this is pretty much just our alternative to Notion and Notion's AI. And so being able to do everything from draw, design, write documents, store them, schedule things in your calendar, and interface with all the work that you need to be productive. And having an AI interface sitting on top of that, matching it all, connecting it all. If you're not familiar with any of the products I mentioned, I highly recommend going and giving them a try. To me, this is a incredibly unique opportunity to like really get ahead in life. I don't think there's a better time ever to be a professional. And I say this because the gap in how people are using these tools to make their lives better and what they're capable of doing for your life is so tremendous right now that I guarantee that if you invest an hour each day into learning these tools and using them better, you'd probably get at least, at a bare minimum, 2 hours of your life back in exchange. And I guarantee that you'd be more ambitious. I guarantee that you would achieve harder and harder things. The reality is that these tools are super capable in isolated contexts, can outperform humans in a vast majority of cases, specifically when you factor in speed and time as a variable in quality. And that shouldn't be a threat. It should be inspiring because instead of fearing these tools, we could just use them to make the world a better place. Now, with all that said, I like to start off the presentation with the simple reality that agents are inevitable. This is a graph that's, I think, a couple of years old, but, and I'm not, no, let me not say that. We love McKinsey. I'm not the one to over index on what another organization has to say about the future. But I think it's quite staggering just how much of this remains to be true, even though significant time has passed and perhaps um, it actually was understated. So, we can extrapolate, and as a startup founder, it's of course great for me to say, yes, we love that. People are consuming these tools, and that spend is going in a hockey stick exponential, and that people seem to be adopting them at an equally higher pace and paying more for them. But that's kind of basic relative to what's really important about this. What's really important is that superintelligence is going to be in the hands of nearly every individual on Earth, and that has incredible implications for people as engineers with previous jobs trying to make new companies, trying to do things without having to hire 50 people. I think will bring a lot of autonomy, independence, and capability to the world in aggregate, no matter what you want to do. And this could be, I've helped people create music, like Morgan is now essentially a DJ as well as an engineer and founder, and he's been able to do
Music
incredible
producer.
things. Music producer, sorry, he's a music producer who's able to do these incredible things in life now and make these beautiful mixes that I, as a music head, enjoy quite thoroughly because he's been able to apply his creativity and intelligence to a different domain. And I don't think he ever would have tried to produce music before, but with AI, he's now able to create multiple hour-long mixes.
Actually, I did try before, and it was very painful.
Even better, even better. That's the point. So yeah, I love Morgan. We work really well together, and I think he's just a great example of what's possible as a result of these new technologies. And I will say that this company is only possible because of these new technologies. The other thing, cost and intelligence is scaling down and to the right. So actually down and maybe up to the right. So oh, no, excuse me. It is down to the right. Sorry, I was right. So intelligence, if we put that on the x-axis, is just steadily moving at an exponential pace. I think people underappreciate that earlier this year, Sonnet 3.7 was the frontier model. I wouldn't trust Sonnet 3.7 to write my LinkedIn post at this point. And not that it couldn't, but just we've advanced so much and so much has happened and so much capability gains and intelligence and lack of hallucinations and general domain capabilities have been increased. And now we had assumed that these prices on an annual year over year basis could drop by like maybe 10x. But in some cases, we're seeing gains of 100x or 1000x. I mean, when you look at how much you would pay for GPT 5.2 now, and if you're not familiar with all of these models, don't expect everyone to be. I highly recommend looking at OpenRouter.ai and their rankings and leaderboards, as well as artificialanalysis.ai. This will give you a really good perspective on all the models that are coming out and how they relate to each other. But I digress. The latest GPT 5.2 models compared to the 4.0 models when they came out, the price difference isn't tremendous, but the intelligence difference is night and day. What's possible with these applications? I mean, 4.0 had no chance on humanity's last exam, which is a benchmark for some of the hardest and most complicated things that anybody could do, and specifically AI systems, which is now getting like a 50%, which is a tremendous jump over 5.1 and GPT-5, and makes the intelligence of GPT 4.0 feel quite negligible, even though this was a tremendous breakthrough when it came out. The third thing that's important for us is that agent development is a skill set not owned by big labs. I would argue that building frontier agents can be as challenging or is as difficult as managing the pre-training, mid-training, and post-training process for models in aggregate. And we're seeing that the companies that are making money and being successful, not losing it, the activities that they're doing are making agents and products that benefit people's lives. In aggregate, we're seeing training models not be that differentiated. We're seeing it get competed to near zero and turning them into a commodity. But we benefit from all of the intelligence and the billions and billions of dollars of investments people are making to lose that money. And so I think the final most important thing that should be inspiring for us all as builders is that frontier techniques are gated by knowledge, not capital. I'll explain this and go into this in slightly more detail, well, tremendously more detail than this blank slide. But it's not something, this isn't a car in an automation or automotive manufacturing industry. This is very much something where if you go in get your hands dirty, try and build something that isn't out there yet, and to your best ability, grind day after day, it's very likely that you would make a discovery or discover a new capability that just hasn't even been exploited by the world at large right now. That's how babyish and nation this industry is. That's how infantile our approaches and applications of new products has been. That is really an open field. And I would say, outside of perhaps Claude Code, it has never been the case that the big lab has the best, most effective product out there across different domains. And I would investigate that. So, how can we then, as Opulentia, not Google, maintain our performance as a baseline? I mentioned Google because one of the things is agent organizations. So, Morgan and I were going over this paper yesterday. But what they had released is the science of scaling agentic systems. And so we know, and I'll make this part quick because not everybody's a deep research nerd like I am. But the point is, is scientifically and research proven that there are a lot of methodologies you can use to get significant outperformance from other ones. And then if you're not exploiting these, it's very possible for you to make a better product than what's out there. So one of the ways you can do this is really intelligent multi-agent system design, which we have here in Opulent Code. I'm gonna get deeper into multi-tier memory, so I won't go over it right now. But how can you make an agent that learns continuously without continuous learning in the pre-training or post-training step? The other thing is tool composition. Obviously, well, it's non-obvious, but there are so many different ways to construct the tools that you give to an agent, to define that functionality, to constrain the number of them provided, to constrain when they're provided and how. These are the ways that the agent interfaces with its environment. And these are the things, all of these together is what makes agents so much more difficult, but also so much more powerful than just dealing with an individual model. Um, let's talk about why, though. Why is this all so important for everybody? It's because when you make agents the default, you just get much better results. People are inspired. I mentioned this before, but this is research from Cursor. You'll see a lot of this come up throughout this presentation. They're one of the most successful companies and startups in history, meaning that they got to 100 million in annual recurring revenue at one of the fastest paces that we've ever seen. But they're also incredible at making agentic software platforms. And I'm nearly positive everyone here has probably used Cursor or heard of it. And if you haven't, I really would give them a try as well as Opulent Code. But what we saw when they made agents the default in Cursor and enterprise they deployed it to is that you were getting something like a 40% increase in productivity with absolutely no decrease in quality. This has tremendous implications for different organizations. And again, I think what you should consider is obviously always and most importantly how good you are today versus how good you were yesterday. But also relative to the world, because this is the system that we do live in, how much more that you can excel and get an opportunity against your peers by best leveraging these systems. And again, I will say that in an inspiring way. It's never to put another person down, but I simply would not be able to have a frontier AI company if I just wasn't obsessed with using these tools. And I actually find them to make work quite a bit more fun. And I used to be a large video game person, even playing competitively. And work has never felt so much like a video game as when I get to use these systems. So, what can you do with Opulent Code that really gives you an advantage? Of course, if you go to Winter of Code Social, wocs.opulentia.ai, you'll be able to get access to the platform, install it yourself, and bring your own keys to utilize it. And the page also goes into more detail. But there's a variety of different things that you can do between code-based understanding. I do this very frequently. I'm somebody that obsesses over having large, like nearly 1,000 repositories of applications I've built in AI and being able to reference them because I might develop a functionality here that can be ported over there and need to understand it. So sometimes I just ask it to make me a summary of everything that's in the code base or the specific functionality I want. Large scale refactors. I trust Opulent code when there's stuff like, whether you're going from JavaScript to TypeScript and explicitly typed types, whether you are refactoring your AI SDK or your framework for how you're composing and developing agents, moving to a new stable release. These are literally just things that I was doing this morning, which is why they're very top of mind. It becomes very useful there. As you're doing these things, you may want to do additional web scraping and research. What are some of the best techniques that we're seeing applied? Are there open source repositories that can help me better understand this problem space and help me better engineer a solution that I can understand and be proud of? And then testing. Are we making sure that there's coherence? Are we making sure that we're following best practices? When we're inventing new things, is this having the intended effects on the system that we want it to? Can we explore these things? Can we make more programmatic tests? Can we prevent regressions? Can we ensure functionality before things break in prod? God knows I need to. But these are all very powerful use cases that you can use Opulent Code for today. So hierarchical memory. I think this is like perhaps like less powerful than it could be today. If anybody has any questions, by all means, put them in the chat. I will stop talking and yapping to answer them. But I'm hoping this is valuable. I think the most important thing that we're doing right now as it pertains to models and agents is figuring out how can we get to a space where we can have continual learning. So it should be evident to everybody that nothing that can continually learn like we can as human beings that are much more capable and intelligent than AI is, of course. We are adaptable, and although we have a certain level of specific intelligence in that mathematically it's just impossible to coherently process everything that's happening in the universe, although we know that it could be computable. We only look at a small subset of that, but we make a lot of really intuitive and smart design decisions about being alive as humans, compressing all this information. But we also learn really continuously. And when we're kids and babies, you can just imagine how much more ignorant you were, although you could traverse the world to what we've been able to accomplish now. And now you're sitting here talking about autonomous engineering and building solutions yourself. We're highly capable of that. With a model, it's kind of like bread in that you take it out of the bakery and that's just what it is, and it's going to stay that way. And that's one of the biggest gaps that we have to making these systems continuously capable of evolution and growing stronger. But there is a slight way to kind of hack this and at least get some kind of performance gains um, along your trajectory and make it more impactful and personalizable to you. And this would be hierarchical memory. So I'd say there's three key forms of memory that's important to distinguish on. One is session memory, meaning we just need to remember what we've been talking about during this session. If you're interfacing about a specific research question in any AI interface, it's very nice when it remembers what you're talking about, the exact context, the specificities of what's occurred in the conversation, what is explored, and what it hasn't. Very basic. Most people just refer to that as context. The user memory. People are starting to appreciate this more in large personalized AI applications like ChatGPT. But these could be facts about a specific user that persist across sessions. So when a user says, I'm interested in AI stocks and have a moderate risk tolerance, it would be important to remember that because it's likely that these insights and information about the user will come up in different ways or at least be relevant. So we can still this tier two memory across all of our different applications to drive it, make it sticky, make it valuable to be there for a long time, and make it so as you're using the application, it's getting better at understanding you and doing what you want it to do. The third most important one, especially for Asian developers like myself, is learned or learning memory, meaning there may be a calculation when you're doing financial analysis and let's say your total acquirable market where you might look at the fields and get some kind of calculation derived from working on one problem in an interface. And we don't want this new solution to this problem to just be stored with you as a singular user. We want to make sure this is available for everybody out there. So you might say, one of the things that I use a lot during this presentation was Cursor's research blog. So one fact that might get stored is, when you're discussing frontier autonomous coding systems, you should reference the latest pieces from Cursor's coding blog. And this is something that could likely get you better and more sophisticated answers for every single user, although it came from just one session. So learning is remembering what worked. How can we do a better job of remembering what worked, both for individual users in specific sessions and also globally for everyone, so you get a more powerful system in aggregate? Okay, so this is Opulent Code. This is the interface right here. It's quite beautiful. I'm a huge fan of it, if I don't say so myself. Um, and it has an integrated file editor, terminal, shell. It has what we call Opulent Wiki. So not only can you traverse the code base in question, it makes rich semantic understandings and indexes of it in the background. So as you continue to ask these questions, as you continue to try a new task, it has a richer understanding of what you're working with. We also do a lot with tool composition. One of the ones that we feature is Morph Labs. And so what they have this little graph at the top right that you'll see. And so, you know, how you gauge your observed productivity versus the agent's autonomy. I think most people find, at least when like GPT-5 codex was out, it was very smart at the time, but you would go and utilize it and it might take 25 minutes to do a hard problem. That's very, very annoying. And although it might get you closer to the right answer, it'd probably be better as engineers if we could get quicker feedback cycles and loops on what we're trying to do versus building it there. So it doesn't feel very fun to wait 25 minutes. It also feels very sloppy when it's like, nearly instantaneous and you can tell it just didn't even observe all of the action space or really appreciate what the environment was that's interacting with. And you're going to get a bad answer. That's not good either. That doesn't feel productive. But with tool composition, like for example, semantic search, which is part of Opulent Code, and normally when you're designing agents and coding agents, they'll tell you that grep is important, which is searching on regular expressions within the code base based on the terminology provided. But there's also semantic search, where you can use that same level of semantic indexing, embeddings, and knowledge understanding and intuitive code base understanding on top of regular expression search and be able to get much more sophisticated answers from your code base. Meaning, as you're working on your code, you can do things like achieve 13% higher accuracy in answering questions. And this is legitimate from a research report. You produce code changes that are more likely to be retained because they're more representative of the system in aggregate. You require fewer solutions, fewer iterations to arrive at the correct solution. And you just simply get a higher degree of accuracy across all models: smart, strong, powerful, fast, research, etc. And so this is just one of the 16 or 17 tools that we've designed specifically for Opulent Code. And we see tremendous performance increases from other stuff that's available on the shelf. So what's the ultimate goal, or what really can you do additional use cases? And this is just to spark the mind. But for us, it's like these tools are incredibly important because we're seeing, enhanced resonance with engineers. We are the group, we are the people that can really appreciate these tools. We are the ones where we're seeing so many tremendous gains come. I think it's likely because many of us in the AI industry, of course, are engineers or research engineers. And so it becomes obvious how we can apply this technology to our own field. And also, we know that code is, a universal abstraction and language for nearly everything that happens in the world or that you'd want to describe. And so it becomes very powerful. You can think on the grander scale of how technology evolves for us to tackle and dominate coding agents. And we're seeing that be the case. As you can see over here, Cursor, again, hockey sticked to an incredible amount of money. They're doing great. We love Cursor. But also we're seeing OpenAI, who is more of a leader in the space, getting there incredibly quick, faster than most others. Anthropic doing that as well. And now we're seeing Devin and who's the other one? I'm blanking, but somebody has even eclipsed Cursor over here very recently. And so this is so applicable again towards the universal abstraction. Do everything from COBOL migrations, nasty legacy banks, Java upgrades, SDK updates, refactors, like I'm going to do right after this, migrations, and even document composition. So a lot of this stuff is actually things where like I'll have the idea, and maybe it's memory. I'll have the idea about it, and I'll keep everything, whether that's my research, whether that's my writing, in one singular code base. And so it's accessible continuously, whether I'm making new writings, whether I'm making a new post, whether I'm working with amazing people like Arushi to be able to communicate what I'm doing very effectively. So I actually use these tools for that as well too. And so yeah, you get state of the art performance. This is one of the interfaces and selectors. So we make it easy to define custom rules and instructions. We make it easy to define whether you want this semantic indexing and understanding of your code bases, et cetera, what custom tools you want to define. Do you want to use Anthropic, OpenAI, or OpenRouter? We make all three available. Do you want custom connectors? Like maybe that's Context 7 or DeepWiki for better code base understanding. Maybe that's Firecrawl for, automation and extraction of different web pages. We put it in your hands and we provide a powerful agent harness to make it possible. And so thank you, everyone. I really appreciate everyone coming to join, especially happy holidays. It's close to the holiday season. Whether you celebrate or not, I think it's a wonderful time to spend time with the people that you love, and doing things that you love. And so I really love and appreciate this. And I'm really grateful to Arushi. Driving innovation, doing new things in this world is quite difficult. It's not easy whatsoever. The world is very resistant to new and exciting ideas, and it takes people like Arushi to you're not soul. It takes people like Arushi to enable this kind of transformation at scale and bringing these kinds of opportunities to everybody. So with that, I can open the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your kind words. I think there are a few members who are interested in seeing a demo. Would it be possible for you to do a little demo?
Yeah, for sure. Let me pull it up. But what did Chris says? I'm not sold. Oh, he wants to see a demo. Okay, I got it. People do this big thing with demo. Okay, let me see. And you can also just use it as well too, by the way. But let me pull it up. Can you see my screen? Can you see my whole screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, here it is right here. And so literally refresh. As you can see, I use it quite frequently. And,
Could you use
it might,
the WOC website?
you said what?
Could you use the link, the URL you gave for the Winter of Code Social?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes straight to the application, but let me
Okay.
see. Yeah. And so this is just describing it. So you get the full view, you get pretty much a consolidated view and most important things of everything that we've talked about today. And we make the access link, which is just at this is at wocs.opulentia.ai. This is at code.opulentia.ai. And so it could be something as similar as give me a summary of the TAN stack AI framework. Yeah, and so you can see Gemini 3 Flash can be better at handling like different tool calls and like parsing information. That's kind of the trade-off that you make with fast and efficient models versus ones that are more intelligent. Like if I'm doing programming for real, autonomous engineering, I'm going to use Opus 4.5 or GPT 5.2 most of the time. But we make all of them available. And for a demonstration like this, we can pull it up. This will load in short order, but it's actually able to respond and get the answer quicker than it could actually generate and navigate the code base. So, um, yeah. And so as you can see, let's see if we can expand this, can we? Or I can just jump into a different one. Oh, there we go. So you get to see like an overview. This is actually within the code base. I really wish it would just load the file tree. But you'll be able to see an integrated terminal. You get to see the file tree, and you can see that too. Like, where is it? Right here. It'll actually just generate a clone of the code base and make a new branch for it to iterate on. And then you can continue to make those edits and work autonomously. So it's okay. It's okay, Chris. I like a challenge. But I could sit here and spend money and demo it all day. There we go. So yeah, I was actually able to respond. That's how powerful the models are getting. Before even it was able to generate and clone and render the code base and make that semantic indexing. But as you can see, the same way you would in a file editor like VS Code, you get access to beautifully rendered and partitioned documents and files. And you can then go and traverse and iterate on this. So I asked the question, like I said, code-based understanding is a really powerful use case, but you can go and do anything you want. Like for one thing I'm going to do after this is they released a stable version of AI SDK 6. This allows you to do a lot more things with like programmatically versus me having to handwrite these custom implementations for these different things. Define different classes of agents, have better options as we're designing tools and stuff like this. And being able to make that migration is relatively seamless with the Vercel AI SDK. And so right after we're done here, I'm going to use this to make the product even better. So this is one of my favorite things that I've ever built in life. And so, you might have some hiccups here and there, but that's because I'm continuing to work on it and will be and making it available to you all. And if you have any feedback, what about OCR? Okay. Let me finish my sentence before I get in that, but that's interesting. If you have any feedback, just feel free to reach out to me. I want to make myself available. Again, I care about making life easier and more fun for everybody. And so, criticism, I don't mind it whatsoever, or I don't mind skepticism or just questions. I find it very enticing and like very helpful for making these systems better for all in aggregate. OCR, like, that's a really good question. For example, the model we're using right now has the multimodal capabilities. The Gemini family of models are really good at doing that, whether that's speech, audio, text, video. Having that centralized input and output, they make it very seamless to do that. Um, Usually traversing over code and autonomously engineering, you don't use too much OCR outside of there are some things that are like one thing I do, and so it is possible. I'll just say that very possible. Is like whether that's you might be able to translate your intent much better by just providing a screenshot versus articulating something in a prompt. So, for example, if you paste if a conversation that you're having with an agent into a chat window of a different agent, it might get very confused over whether this is part of the request, whether you're providing context, or whether you're trying to like show it a previous conversation that it should be aware of for its own context in a different way versus analyzing this as a separate case. And so one of the things I've had to do is specifically in that use case, and I'm literally to show you the power of these, they're all things I've done just this morning. It's not the most important or most powerful or best way to use these things, but just an example. It's only, 10 a.m. These are all examples from this morning. So I would provide a screenshot here, articulate the prompt in the same way, saying, hey, maybe we need to have better controls and stringent controls over the way it's exploring and reading the different code base. For example, to get an answer like this is something that we fixed through that. You should be able to read the overview document like relatively quickly. It should take one pass. It's not that much text. It's not that much context. It shouldn't have to use an agentic RAG kind of process of We're only going to look at the first 20 lines and the last 20 lines, etc. It's kind of over-engineered with just a small document. Communicating that in a way that can make that change relatively effective, as we've seen, it actually did work. I didn't know that. Um, Providing the image of the entire chat history and then the conversation context so that it knows, yes, we're referring to a different platform and application. You might think that because these models can get gold on International Math Olympiad, that you would never have to deal with that problem, but it does become very real, and that poor context and context rot can really have negative effects on what you're trying to build, and it might make edits or do things that will just completely waste your time and ruin your code base. So I highly recommend actually using as much contrastive multimodal reasoning as you possibly can. So that's a good question. Just was.
If anyone else has any questions, now is the time. We have Jeremy here for another few minutes. So if you have any questions, you can just unmute yourself or write it in the chat.
Come on, come at me. Come at the AI guy. Oh, any questions that you have?
Question the AI guy. This is your opportunity.
Hold me to the flame. I love it. I enjoy it.
I think one question that I've heard a lot of people ask is if it can do everything we are actually preparing or studying for, what's the point of, you know, preparing or making the tools? So, how can we use these tools in a way that makes us look like we have skills, like we actually learn something,
Mm.
not just make everything with it?
That is a fantastic question, Arushi. That is a really good question. And I would say, like, I think about this a lot, especially as we saw, like, one of the things I was looking for was the Gemini 3 release. To me, that was like the indicator of the new era. There's like a really funny meme where it's like new frontier mile out and it's Grok logo, and there's new frontier mile out and it's Anthropic. And they go in this cycle where as soon as one releases the next era of models, you'll usually see the others come within a week or two. Um, and I had really high hopes and expectations for Gemini 3. In some ways, it fulfilled them. In many ways, it did not. But what it made it very apparent to me is that we can make these models incredibly intelligent and very capable and make it so that they don't make too many mistakes. However, they're still only going to do what we direct them to do
Mhm.
for the foreseeable future. There's almost no proactivity right now. There's almost no deeper, like semantic meta reflection on the conversations that we're having with it. It's just getting really good at doing what we're asking it to do, which is a good thing. Like it's still a tool. This is my personal perspective, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but I think these things are better served as tools versus viewing them as different creatures or species because they are for our empowerment. And so I would say it's still so important. Like the more technically capable, the more knowledge you have, the more skill sets you have within your domains, it actually becomes so much more fun and so much better to use these systems because I just really do not see an immediate apparent future where you can just plug and play these tools with a human. It's just not how it works. I think the more like actually, this is the happy path for humanity is that these systems will largely be pretty docile without the instructions, at least as it stands today. So, as I said, this field moves incredibly fast. I don't necessarily expect that to be true at the end of 2026, but certainly everybody developing skills right now is well served because you'll be the ones that are able to exploit these systems for the empowerment of your life and the people around you, not subservient to them, or you shouldn't be afraid of them replacing you. The correct fear, if I'm going to be honest, the correct fear is the next guy with the AI tool that you're competing against. The fear is not the AI tool itself.
The fear is how their ideas, what their ideas could do, and if they have enough power to make these tools and do anything they can with it, what will they do? Which side are they on?
The question, that rhetorical?
Yeah.
Because it could be a lot. But I think there's just so much more that we can do positively. Um, I think there's so much more that becomes possible. Like for me, I've enjoyed nothing more in life than running this company. It is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I certainly was not a good enough engineer to do it before starting the journey and wouldn't have been without these tools.
So let's make the most of it, everyone. Um,
Yes.
I think we have one last question from Chris in the chat.
Oh, how I think about security and what I think the threat models are. Um, I'm just going to preface this by being honest. I really want the best for everybody. I think security is like incredibly important. And even yesterday, I was doing a large pass through, especially implementing things like MCP, which we know can like be very bad, exposing a lot of different things to the public and pretty easy to cause trouble with. Of taking in the best information that I can possibly gather on best practices pertains to security, making sure everything has authentication and registries and checks at every single different level of the application, especially when it's interfacing with the external world. And then using things like sandboxes. So we're backed by Daytona, which is a agentic sandbox company, to make these environments and spin them up in a way that you can completely control what comes in and out and what happens within this action space. So I think security is incredibly important, but I also think that there are a million different ways that if you use these systems incorrectly, either by their design, either by a mistake that we all make, like we know that Next.js itself had a pretty massive security vulnerability. But to that point, thank you for just was you wrapping until I got back to this point. But the thing that actually discovered the vulnerability in Next.js, I think it was like 15.36, was actually GPT 5.1 codec. So, yes, they can produce security vulnerabilities, and yes, you should expect them to, and yes, you should be very careful with what you're passing. But also, yes, the capabilities of them to provide help to you for them to do things that you shouldn't have to do, and to make new discoveries like this large scale vulnerability in Next.js is also significant and probably more important than the risk. I hope I answered the question. Amazing.
Okay, I think that's all about the questions we have for today and the knowledge we can provide to our attendees today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today, and a big special thanks to Jeremy for coming up. It's the holiday season going on. Everyone is busy with their families and still coming here and telling us more, giving us more knowledge about this topic. So, thank you so much, Jeremy.
Thank you for making it possible and providing the platform, Rushi. The best.
Yeah,
And thank
I'll
you all for
also
coming and joining.
share the link you made for Winter of Code Social with our attendees, so they
Yeah,
can
for
start
sure.
using the tool and learning more about it, experimenting, even if they are not into tech or if they are not as technically good, they can still use the tool and make projects and just be better at it.
For sure. And there's even a scratch pad functionality I forgot to mention, where you could even like use it for writing and stuff like that. You could use it to write a post. It'll just spawn up an environment. It'll spawn up like its own repository with just a simple README, and then you can edit it and do things from there. So it actually is quite diverse in what you can do with it. Um, I I really beg everybody to poke as many holes as you can, and feel free to interact with me again. I'm happy to work on any feedback, and we always appreciate it.
We can still see your screen, so maybe you can share where they can find the scratch pad.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So literally, you just click here, you go to scratch patch mode. All you have to do is click the button, and then it becomes pretty easy to just spawn up that new workspace. It will quickly understand what needs to go on. Oh, oh, it wants to see. You can even actually access the shell and terminal and create all these new tasks, and it wants to make a test to do all of these things. But the point is, you'll be able to, oh, wow. We all learn things. This is quite interesting. I've never seen it behave like this before, but this is actually pretty cool. So on the tool calling thing, as you can see, Chris, to answer your question in finality, you're seeing everything from it. It's pretty much what it's discovered is like, okay, I'm in this new empty environment. What is going on? What is expected of me? This guy just said, hey. So it's going to try and set up the entirety of the environment. It's going to try and install these different packages because it does have some templates to work with. It's going to traverse the workspace. It's going to create a to-do list of like setting up. It's even going to try and access its memories, which of course there are none for this session, um, to see what's going on. And then it's going to add one and say, hey, when you're working in these new empty environments, it does have support for Node and NPM. So um, that was a good ask. And, hopefully we just say, hey, back in the future and do some engineering. I just made some changes, but it's pretty cool of demonstrating exactly what we've been talking about this whole time.
I hope, Chris, that makes sense. All right. I don't think
Perfect.
anyone else has any questions. So, yeah, I just want to thank everyone for joining today. That will be all for today. We are going to organize more such informational sessions. So stay tuned. Keep a check on our website and social media. So we'll be updating you with the new sessions we are doing, how you can learn about more different technologies, and how you can be more involved in the community. And yeah, thank you so much for joining. We'll
Thank
see you next
you.
time.
All right, bye-bye.